Chaos and confusion today in a South Minneapolis neighborhood as federal law enforcement agents descended on a Mexican restaurant. Protesters, believing it was an immigration raid, started gathering and getting into clashes with law enforcement. Local and federal officials said the raids had nothing to do with immigration. Raya Katene has the latest.
Chaos erupted in South Minneapolis as federal law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, ICE, DEA, and ATF, served high-risk search warrants related to drugs and money laundering at this Mexican restaurant on East Lake Street. Hundreds of protesters gathered, some clashing with law enforcement, believing it was an ICE raid.
I had people hugging me because they're scared. I feel we can do better. I feel we can do better as a country.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey and Minneapolis police say what happened was not related to immigration enforcement and no arrests were made during the operation.
Regardless of what was taking place here, the fact that, there are agents who are militarized, they deployed tear gas on community members. Whatever was happening is completely unacceptable.
Ella Hagan from Minneapolis says she was tear gassed and is enraged by what she witnessed.
I think we're standing united in the rejection of this systemic violence.
Standing together as tensions and some confrontations escalate.
I got knocked down. I still haven't my adrenaline is still really high up there.
Andrea Stearns from Minneapolis says she was helping direct traffic to keep other protesters safe when a driver hit her.
And he stopped. And then I had my hands on the roof of his car, and then he gunned it, and he sped about 40 miles an hour down to the corner here.
That's when Stearns says protesters deflated the driver's tires and surrounded his car until police responded about 45 minutes later. But as officers escorted the driver away, tensions and confrontations once again were elevated.
Well, I just want people to actually acknowledge that this is happening in our own backyards.
In a South Minneapolis neighborhood now filled with uncertainty.
The sun is coming out.
A moment to breathe.
The sun is about to come out. Look at God.
In the midst of chaos.
Right now, we are still working to figure out how many people who showed up to protest were arrested or detained. But to be clear, Julie, no arrests were made today specifically in connection to that raid that happened.
And there was just that one restaurant in the South Minneapolis location, but also there's another restaurant in Bloomington as well that was a subject of a raid today.
Yeah, it's actually the same restaurant with the same ownership, except just a different location that happened in Bloomington, and we don't know of any protests that happened there as far as we're aware of.
All right, we'll keep watching that story. Thank you, Raya.